folks, I'd just love to introduce you to this man who is a luminary and an extraordinary being. And this Jim Morningstar is here with us today. And Jim is the Director of Transformations Incorporated, and he's been a clinical psychologist since the early 70s. And he's going to be speaking to us about his particular style of breath work, a little bit about the School of Integrative Psychology, and his work as a transformations breath worker for the last, well, almost, yes, 41 years. So thank you, Jim. Thank you for coming, and I hand over to you.
Thank you so much for inviting me, especially into the warmth, well, relative warmth of Bali, because, as I mentioned earlier, we just reached 10 below zero here a few days ago. And our precipitation is coming down in white flakes, not in torrential rain like yours. So,
where is it?
You're in where are you exactly, Jim?
We're in Wisconsin, which is just right on the shore of Lake Michigan in central United States.
Well, thank you, especially for doing this at your time of day. We really appreciate you staying up to do it for us, and I appreciate everybody getting here so early to do it as well. So,
good. Well, let's start with just bringing our energies in together, because we are indeed spanning the globe in our connection today. And I'd like to get our breath in sync so that any work that we do is actually breathing with the planet together. So I'll ask you to get yourself comfortably seated and your spine relatively straight. And as you inhale, let your eyes close and bring the energy from the base of your spine up your back to the top of your head. As you exhale, then let the energy come down the front of your body, returning to the base of your spine. So inhaling up the back and exhaling down the front, just as though a gentle, loving hand were massaging your energy field, sending a light and healing energy to every vertebrae as you inhale up the back, and to all your vital organs as you exhale down the front. Know that with this simple act of coordinating your breath with your intention, you harmonize all of your internal energies and bring them into alignment with your purpose. Now I'm going to ask you to do an experiment with me to bring our energies into alignment with the core of the earth. And that is, as you inhale up the back, bring it to the top of your head, but then as you exhale, send that energy ball of light out all the way around to the other side of the planet. So you are including now the whole planet in your circle of breath. And then as you inhale, bring it in from the opposite side of the planet all the way up your back to the top of your head, and continue with a few cycles, sending your breath around the world, including the world in your loving intention of one breath. Suggest that what we do together today, by way of getting to the heart of what our personal breath work is and the service that we offer to our planet, we bring out the highest good for us as individuals, for all of the clients that we serve, and for all of humanity. And then if you would bring your breath back just to around your body, inhaling up the back and down the front, and breathe into your heart area. Ask for some special intention today that you want for yourself, being with a group of fellow breath workers, being with others who have dedicated their service, their life energy to enhancing the aliveness, the vitality, the harmony, the peace, and the love that we share together on our planet. What is it that you want particularly for yourself? Just let it come, whatever occurs to you. And then know that as we breathe together, we support the intention of all of our comrades in the circle, as well as receive their support for our highest intention. Then with a couple of deep and clearing breaths, bring yourself back easily, relaxed, awake, and delightfully curious. All right. Just let your eyes open, look around. I'm particularly happy to accept your invitation, Antonio, to speak with your community. I know that the contact that we had at the Omega conference this past year was particularly delightful. And when you asked me to share with your friends, it's an offer I couldn't refuse. So,
thank you, Jim.
I would like to set a theme here in our work together, our sharing together today, because by and large this is going to be question and answer and sharing, but there's something in particular that I thought I wanted to impart to start with, and that is why breath work is a technique, a modality, a healing gift that's particularly important in our world at this stage of our evolution. Back in 1970, even before I did formal breath work, I was privileged to work with a man who was studying the evolution of consciousness on the planet. And his work has been carried on by his students. He's long since passed. But he was looking, even before the modern work with neuroscience, he was looking at all of the changes that happened when we went through stages of consciousness. These are changes in our belief systems, changes in our neurology, changes in our behaviors. And he began to chart these changes and see that humanity was actually on a course that was predictable, not predictable in the sense that we knew exactly what was going to happen, but we tended to go from a adapt self mentality to an express self mentality, a yin and the yang, although he wouldn't have used those terms. But when we make these shifts in consciousness, we see the world differently. And we learn differently. We actually have different educational techniques that work better for us as we advance and are more inclusive in our consciousness. He began to chart these. So the question of what's the best way to educate children was somewhat of a false question. It's what children, at what stage of their evolution, and in what context. The reason there are so many different kinds of educational models and different kinds of therapies and different kinds of healing techniques is because they're all useful. They're all useful to some people at some point in their life's journey and evolution. The first 6 stages that he talked about were stages of survival, where we passed from individual survival to work in our tribe, to work in our clan, to work in our religious belief systems, to work in our what he called the pragmatic world of the Industrial Revolution, to working in the sociocentric world of groups getting together and seeing that it wasn't just progress, it's learning how to share more with the world. And then there was a great leap in consciousness when we began to think more globally. And this isn't just a small group of people. This is the world itself tends to peak. Although there are pioneers, there are individuals who make these breakthroughs themselves, and they usually have to be very strong individuals to kind of buck the trend of the status quo. But when they do, they open the doors for everyone. Well, I think the pioneers of breath work were some of those brave individuals who began to say, look, we're not just working in our cognitive framework anymore. Our healing instrument is our whole body, our whole consciousness. Now, I personally had a call to be in the helping and the healing professions, but after I went through more years than you can imagine in education, I was ready to quit. I was ready to say, look, I got on a plane 2 days after I completed my doctorate, and I went to Africa. And there I became enlightened. I said, I'm going to come back and be a farmer because I want to be in my body. I don't want to be in my head. And I don't want to see that as the only way to help people. It's just by talking to them. So it was at that time when I found other techniques of helping that opened my heart. But this was even, again, before breath work. This was Alexander Lowen and bioenergetics, and also some ancient techniques of Tai Chi, things that put us in our body and in our breath. Then, when breath work came along, for me personally, I had a foundation for it. I had already seen how vital it was to connect the breath if we're going to change patterns in the body. And so doors of consciousness began to open now. It wasn't just, he was learning some new techniques. This was opening the doors to see how interconnected we all are, indeed being one breath. And if we are going to continue to spread this consciousness, we need these kind of techniques to help people get out of survival. You don't talk someone out of survival. Oh, there, you're safe, we all love you. That's very reassuring. But I still have programs in my body which put me on red alert whenever my triggers are pushed. So I need something that brings both sides of my brain together. Now, Dan Siegel, in his work with mindfulness, has charted areas of the brain that are called implicit-only memory. And these are areas that when I've had a traumatic event in the past, it cuts off my neurology cuts off connections to my prefrontal cortex. I am not tracking this as an event that's happening to me. I'm just in survival mode. And when I'm in that survival mode, I do fight, flight, or freeze. And if I can't get out of the stress by fleeing or by fighting, I go into a pattern of holding, of freezing. You can't talk someone out of that. It's, as it were, frozen in their neurology. Breath work is a technique which allows us to go back and open those doors, those triggers, but in a safe atmosphere, and make sense out of it, and put it into what he calls autobiographical narrative. And then to connect with the prefrontal cortex. And so I learn how to breathe now when these triggers come up, and I no longer go into my freezing response. This is the gift that breath work, in particular, the kind of breath work that we're doing. In general, I see breath work in two broad categories. First, there is the breath work which is slowing the breath down, coherent breath work, which helps us breathe at 4 to 6 breaths per minute. And this is what I call maintenance breathing. This was done in pranayama. It's now coherent breathing. HeartMath uses this. Mindfulness uses this. I use this every day. It's what I call maintenance breathing. It addresses the parasympathetic nervous system, which helps us feel that oceanic sense of relaxation, letting down. But as we all know, there are triggers within us, those pockets of implicit-only memory, which when re-stimulated put us in fight and flight, that aren't just released by breathing slowly. Therefore, we have used a second type of breathing. My version of it is called therapeutic breath work, but there's clarity breath work. There's many different ways and it started with the work of Leonard Orr and also Stan Grof. And that is, when you speed up the breathing, you actually innervate the sympathetic nervous system, which again takes us back to those areas that are a little edgy, that put us into a bit of flight and fright, but done judiciously, so that we can now complete connections that we couldn't when we were in trauma. This takes us out of being programmed for survival responses when we're under stress. This is why I say this particular technique, the therapeutic breath work or inspirational breath work, Judy Kravitz uses this kind of breathing. It's done also in holotropic. This kind of breath work is what is needed to bring more and more people into a zone of growth rather than living in survival. So I wanted to put that framework out there just so you know where I'm coming from when I think that we have something very important here. Yes, for each of us individually, but what happens is as more and more people create that degree of safety, especially with doing it in a group like a community that you have there, when more and more people and more groups of people do that together, we are getting to a tipping point on the planet. And what we're doing is affecting not just us or our small community, but it's affecting the breadth of the world. So, with that little introduction, I hope that will stimulate some questions, and we can discover some new things ourselves in our dialogue together. So again, take a breath.
Yeah, let's take a breath.
So Anthony, you had some questions from your...
Yes, I do. Thank you for that, Jim. What a great introduction. And I'm just going to kind of popcorn through the questions that I have, and you can run with them as you see fit, and as long as you need to. The first question, of course, is what is therapeutic breathwork, and how is it different to other breathworks? And perhaps more importantly, what's the piece that it brings to the whole? What's the piece that it brings to the pie?
Yes. Well, I've already led into that by what I just said, how it is, for me, a technique par excellence in that it's not just relaxing and breathing, it's actually energizing the breath. And what I love about it is that it's so adaptable to whatever tools we already have. There are massage therapists, occupational therapists, psychotherapists like myself, and breath work is adaptable and can incorporate so many other techniques that it's very inclusive. Now, my particular background came from bioenergetics, which was one thing. So I use a lot of physical techniques. If you look at the video I have on body themes and breath work, the idea that, again, there is one breath, that's the ideal breath, and we're all working towards being able to breathe just like that, is misleading. Of course, when I say I learn breath work, I teach breath work, for me, I just set the stage for other people to find their own breath work. I believe that every one of us has to find that connection that puts our body, mind, and spirit in alignment. And it's different for every person. Now, I also believe that there are styles or themes in life which are shared by many people. And this was the work of Alexander Lowen when he talked about body types. I see it as body themes. The theme of basic safety, the theme of abandonment or abundance, the theme of am I independent or am I dependent on, in control or not in control? Am I able to express my feelings freely or are my feelings restricted? Am I able to accept my sexual identity or not? Or can I have intimacy? All those themes, those 6 different themes, when incorporated in a body, are displayed in how we breathe. And so I don't believe everyone has to know body themes, but if you do, it can help you as a breath worker to see, okay, this person, if I get them to breathe too fast and too much, they are going to leave their body. Whereas this person is breathing like a locomotive, but they're not really releasing anything. they're not really letting go. If I'm aware of this, it can help me be where they're at. And so that was my background, and that's part of therapeutic breath work, is just tuning into different styles of breath for different people and the different themes, because our bodies incorporate these themes. The theme of I'm not good enough or I never have enough is often incorporated by a collapsed chest. I know this because I've had that part of that theme myself. The theme of I'm on top of it and I'm not feeling anything is displayed by a chest that is unable to fully surrender, unable to let down and have a complete exhale. So my body is portraying these messages. You don't have to study any books. And that's why breath workers are so successful, because we intuitively pick this up. So you don't need to study these courses to be a good breath worker. You can intuitively pick it up. But also it can be useful to learn from the experience of others as they've seen that. So therapeutic breath work is, along with many other styles of breath work, actually started by Leonard Orr and, as I said, Stan Grof, work with the sympathetic nervous system. And it takes a person who's willing to go through those stages and release one's own fear to be a breath worker. So, thank you for being here. I see it as a gift to be in the company of others who have that courage.
Thank you, Jim. Now, obviously, when you speak of themes as opposed to body types, you're adapting into today's culture, your understanding of your research and your experience with Alexander Lowen and bioenergetics and all the other things that you've done. And I wanted to ask you about dialogue during a breath session. How do you use dialogue? Are you seeking to get the breather to express all the way through, or are you prompting or guiding? How do you approach it?
Okay, I have one rule of thumb as a breath worker, and that is, what is going to increase the sense of aliveness and flow for this individual such that they feel in charge of it, that they feel ownership in their breath. And so, again, tools that you might have developed as a massage therapist or as may work for you, but wouldn't work for me as a breath worker. I was trained as a counselor, as a psychotherapist. So I have always used tools of dialogue, but I've adapted them now to breath work. And that rule of thumb still applies. If I get in a conversation with someone and it's interrupting their flow, it's taking them out of their sense of aliveness and into their head and out of their body, then it's not useful. What I've observed, though, is when people hit their wall, so to speak, in breathing, and then they start to check out or leave their body, dialogue can be useful in bringing them back so they are not zoned out, as it were. But I try to keep the dialogue as brief and to the point as possible to bring them back into the flow of breath. Some people seem to require a little bit more of this to stay present, and other people, I actually don't even speak. I will send them, let's say, intuitive type of messages. I will be cheering for them silently. I will be sending body messages of breathing with them. So there's many different forms of dialogue. I know what you're referring to is verbal dialogue. But there again, You've got to find what works for you as a breath worker. The one phrase that I use the most as a breath worker is, what are you feeling in your body? That, again, references, because often when people start to leave their body or to check out, they don't know that it's happening. They don't know why it's happening. If I can reference them back, then they might start to make a connection. Oh, when my jaw tightens, or when my stomach contracts, or when my thoughts go to something scary, or when my, so asking that question, what are you feeling in your body, isn't because I'm nosy. It's because I'm helping, well, I am nosy, but it's helping them reference what's going on for them, and then maybe I can be on board with it. But they're the most important ones to be on board with it, okay?
Thank you. Could you speak a little bit about rebirthing and your own experience with the birth drama, how you feel it relates to inner child work, and how much it remains a part of your work today?
Oh, absolutely. No, I think the work that was started in rebirthing is still the essential core of what I do. The name was changed to breath work to protect the innocent, I think, because rebirthing started to be associated with things that don't have anything to do with what we do. There was a case in Colorado, for example, that they called rebirthing, where they were working with a teenager with attachment disorder, and they rolled her up in a rug and sat on her, and she died. It had nothing to do with breathing, but they called it rebirthing. And so rebirthing was outlawed in Colorado. So even Leonard now started calling it rebirthing breath work. But breath work, I like it that we evolve and that we're just not just stuck with one term. Another thing that became associated with rebirthing was the idea that unless you experienced your birth, you didn't make it, or you weren't complete. And that's, from my perspective, so far from the truth, because indeed how it got the name rebirthing is because some people, in going into the depths of breath work, did remember their birth, and it was a very freeing experience. But there are people who just have the release without any particular memories of breath, but what they're doing is recreating that first breath just by freeing the breath mechanism. They are, let's say, reprogramming what it is to be fully alive and to breathe. And it doesn't require memories of birth. All right? However, I will sometimes use memories of birth or even role play someone going through the birth canal and coming out, because it re-stimulates some very deep programs for some people. Not for everyone. But again, I'm very pragmatic, and I will trust my intuition. If I have a sense that this is going to work for someone, first of all, I'll ask them, are you willing to try this? And if they are, we'll try it. I like to set the stage of breath work as this is a grand experiment. There's not one right way to do this. There's not one outcome that is the right one, as opposed to all the wrong ones. And so I am a co-voyager and a co-explorer with my client. And when they get the idea, oh, there isn't some right way I'm supposed to do it. No, we're here to investigate and explore together. And then take the results and see what's useful in terms of helping me feel more alive, more vital, and more purposeful. So I like to say there's no bad breathwork sessions, there's just lousy conclusions about them. So, in other words, if I came out of a breathwork session and I'm feeling like, oh no, I'm stuck, and I'm okay, that's as far as I was willing to go for the day. And so I get the sense of stuckness. That's what I'm there to deal with, to stay with that until my next session. And I support the people in that. Okay, just that's what happened today. And let's assume that it's important that that happened today. And that if we can't accept this, then we're just going to slow the progress down. So breathe, feel your stuckness, breathe with your stuckness, and be open to what's on the other side of it. A number of clients that I've had over the years go through more of a, a release or a breakthrough when they're not under the scrutiny of a breath worker. You know, so I give them the freedom to go and play with it on their own, to go and experiment and in the privacy, you know, of their own boudoir. You know? And then they feel safe enough to, whoa, let go. That's great. We don't have to get an ego attachment to, well, I helped you do this. So I hope that addresses the question.
It does.
I forgot what the question was.
Well, it was how relevant is breathwork is rebirthing to your practice today, and as I have to admit, when you said that you used certain ways to recreate or support the recreation of the birth experience, I had this vision of you rolling up a carpet, but I'm sure that's not what you do.
No.
Could you give us some of your experience with that? How you manage that?
Yes. Well, the easiest and most simple is just asking the person to imagine themselves as an infant coming down the birth canal, and you know, and going like a guided visualization with them. It can help physically sometimes, but I don't believe it's in any of the videos. Maybe it was in one of those videos. Again, I ask permission and I tell them what I'm going to do. They're laying on their back. They bend their knees up towards their chest. I apply pressure and I actually lean on their knees, tell them to breathe and push. This is like a woman in labor. And they push, and I give resistance, and they actually start to move, and let's say move themselves around. And when they push me, and I encourage them to push me completely away, both I move and they move, and voila, there's a release. It's a pretty amazing process. And then I just ask them to breathe and to stay with that. I mean, they have an experience of release of tension because they've been pushing against me, and I've been giving them real pressure, just enough, you know, not squash them or overwhelm them, but just enough so that they can feel in their body what it's like to come through, and to come through safely. There's another way that we do in group, and I know you do a lot of group work there, which is, it can involve two people working with a third person. The person's laying down, breathing, bends their knees, and one person holds their feet. Their feet are flat on the ground, and one person holds their feet so they don't move, and the other person goes up to the top of their head and forms a ring. Which is a simulation of a cervix. And they put it at the top of their head, and then as they push and move along, you bring that right over their face. You bring the ring right over their face and then down their shoulders, and voila. Again, you can say, well, that's pretty hokey, you know, but But the fact is, the experiences that I've seen people have, I'm willing to be hokey. I'll be corny or whatever it takes to see the expression on people's faces when they come through that. It's like re-stimulating parts of their body that haven't been stimulated in a way with that kind of safety. They may, for example, get in a shower and feel claustrophobic. They may not be able to go in an elevator. They may not, they have all these things in their life which are stimulating them but not creating any release or safety. They may not even know that. I don't like to wear stocking caps. Oh, I think I'll move to Bali, then I don't have to wear one, So this role plays it, and I found it very useful. Now, you mentioned something earlier, Antonio. You said what I call birth drama, and indeed, I like to put that on rather than saying every birth is a trauma. No, there is birth. To me, symbolizes how we release as human beings in this lifetime. It's like a Greek play where in the beginning, the black cat walks across the stage, and it's beware the black cat. It's like so. When any time there's a transition in life, we have our familiar ways of doing that. And it could be we get stuck and we need to be rescued. We need to be pulled out of situations like a cesarean birth. Or we start to get into it and then we feel we're struggling and we can't move and we feel oppressed and we, like stuck in the birth canal. So there's various ways that become familiar to us, and we tend to repeat. And so, are we hopelessly neurotic that we repeat? No, there's part of us that wants to reach a different conclusion. Part of us wants to go through that again and come out the other side feeling empowered rather than oppressed. Feeling like I am now the midwife for my new life.
What a beautiful thought that is. Thank you, Jim. What about physical or emotional, psychological conditions that you would consider to be inappropriate to do breath work with?
Okay. Well, I don't think breathing is inappropriate for any condition, but therapeutic breath work, or where you breathe faster than normal, can be not useful for a person who is quite, let's say, fragmented to the point that they are, would you say, very unable to put one foot in front of the other or make sense out of their life, on the borderline of being schizophrenic or something of that order, which means that they're just terribly fragmented. You'd have to do other work to get them enough in their body enough so that they could consciously do breath work and not just use it to go farther out. There are also other conditions that medically wouldn't be not recommended for breath work, but you have to have a strong connection with the spirit of breath and with your own calling. The rule of thumb here is if you don't feel comfortable with it as a breath worker, don't do it. Not that you don't have a little fear about it, but there's a strong inner sense of, no, I'm not ready for this. Someone else might work with them, or then really listen to that. I had an experience of just to be on the other end of that. My father went through a massive heart attack at about age 63, and he was unconscious for 3 days. While he was unconscious, I went into the room that he was in, and I whispered in his ear and suggested that he was safe and that he connect with his breath and his aliveness. I did that, and then all the bells and whistles went off, and the hospital staff came running in and kicked me out of the room, and he was going through a crisis. Well, he made it through the crisis, and a week later, when he came out of the crisis, I asked him if he had remembered anything about my talking to him about breathing. And he had had triple bypass surgery. And he said, no, he didn't remember anything about that. And I told him about breathing and its usefulness in feeling safe and alive. And he said, yeah, I'd like to do that. So a week after he came out of the hospital, he came to my house and he laid on the mat and he went through a breath cycle. And during that cycle, he mimicked a heart attack. During that cycle, it looked like for a sense of persons on the outside, it looked like this man is having a heart attack. So visions of rebirther kills father were going through my but something said just stay with it and trust, and indeed he came through it, and he said he experienced no pain, and he never did another session, but he lived over 20 years. When my mother died, he got remarried and had a whole new life. And he said he felt after that heart attack experience that he was reborn. Wow. So I'm not claiming that the breath work had, caused all of that. He caused all of that. You see, breath work doesn't save anyone. People save themselves, and they can use breath work as a tool in the process.
Thank you.
So I related that circumstance because if I didn't feel safe in going through this with my father, and you could say, well, a man whose heart is weakened shouldn't be, doing connected breathing, and but I felt that this was the calling, and to do this. That's where you really have to trust yourself if you're getting into this breathwork business.
Thank you, Jim. And this brings up, it's a perfect segue into the issue of trauma itself and catharsis in breathwork. How do you work with that?
Well, carefully. So I'm not of the school which kind of started out in the early days of breathwork as let's breathe up a storm and see what happens. We're going to pump you up and then pick up the pieces later. I'm a little more cautious than that. I like to see a person establishing more safety with their breath and more confidence with it. And sure, they got to stretch each time. Each session is a stretch, but not to overstretch, as it were. Now, that is where breathwork got the accusation of re-traumatizing people. Because if it's all about breathing as hard and fast as long as you can, you miss the point. It's about what helps the person feel more integrated and at one in their body and in their living their life purpose. And so working with trauma is, in a way, using the neuroscience, it's opening up those areas of implicit-only memory through some re-stimulation, but just the right amount to help them feel like they've got their hands on the steering wheel of their life, not like I saved them or I did it, you know. And so when I'm working with trauma, I will only go as far as that person is willing to go. I will only, and if I have some ideas about what will stretch them or help them to go further, I'll check them out with them first. I won't just jump on top of them and say, all right, what are you going to do now? So but I see every trauma is a gift in disguise. Every trauma is a place that a person got to deal with a major theme or something major in their aliveness and weren't quite ready to complete it yet. So there's a gift waiting on the other side of every trauma. And so I tell people, I'm not trying to get you back to be normal. You know, if you want to insult me, call me normal. I don't want, I want your extraordinary self. I want your full potential. I want, you know, so, traumas in our life have been places where, well, we weren't quite ready to own that much at that time, and but now we are. And it may not look to you like you did anything for a person in a session. It wasn't cathartic in the sense that there was this great, tremendous, really, you know, some people like to be dramatic, all right? Some people feel like something hasn't happened unless they've blown the roof off the joint. And other people don't need that. In fact, other people shut down around that sort of thing. That's why it's always interesting to have a group breath work, isn't it? So listening to where the person is at. So just giving them the safety and acceptance to go at the rate and the pace that they are may be your greatest gift, rather than pushing for a catharsis.
What about bringing back from a tendency to the drama and the catharsis, to the story?
Say it again, Antonio.
Your client is just headed full pelt towards the drama or towards the trauma. Your tendency would be to bring them back.
Oh, no, not necessarily. My tendency would want to keep them awake and aware. So whatever it is that keeps them awake and aware. So the abuser is there. Now, stay with it and just feel what you can while knowing that you're safe. We're not going to let anything happen to that little one that was abused. And that's where, again, your question before was about the inner child work. And that's where I use the inner child work. So if we're consciously going back into something that was traumatic for my client as a child, I will have them see that child and not be caught in the child. This is a way to help give them a little bit of distance so that they can guide themselves through it and give protection to that part of themselves that felt there was no protection. So it's a very useful tool in working with trauma because it allows the person to sometimes remember a scene but not be trapped in it. It allows a person to sometimes find resources that they couldn't if they were overwhelmed with sensation. Am I making sense here?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. I have a question here that inquires about what sources you use for to make contact with the latest developments in breathwork, and it specifically leans towards any scientific research that's being done. I know you mentioned Dan Siegel a minute ago. Perhaps you could speak to that just a little bit. There are some people here who would like to know some hard facts and where they can resource them.
Yes. Well, part of this work with the Global Professional Breathwork Association is about getting out of our silos and starting and getting into the field, to use a farmer's term, because there is so much to learn from all of the different fields of healing, in particular of breathwork. And that's why we, in 2012, we presented with the Shift Network with 22 different breathwork teachers and trainers from around the world, and over 6,000 people tuned into that. And then Jessica Dibb helped parlay that into the Omega conferences. And by the way, this year the conference is going to be held at Kripalu Institute, and November 13th through the 23rd, or 17th through the 23rd, I believe. So why I'm mentioning that is that we're starting to bring conclaves of experts in the field together. That was also the impulse behind my doing the book called The Complete Breath, because we again had people, 24 different people from different persuasions, anesthesiology, and then there were the standards of Leonard and Stan Groff and Sandra Ray, and but also people like Michael Brown, who actually did the presence process, and I believe he studied with Judith Kravitz a little bit, and so getting together with more and more people who are making headway, discoveries, advances, and opening up these connections. We're really at an exciting time right now in the breathwork field, Anthony. I think you know that because you were there at the conference, but Jessica Dibb has also coined the phrase unified breath field. And one of the things that is interesting, the United Nations is considering to accept breathwork as internationally recognized healing modality for the betterment of the world. So we are bringing together the whole body. There's people who are operating a lot more in the head, and there's people who are a lot more intuitive from the heart, and there's people that are operating in the field with their feet on the ground, and so I like to. I was in Milwaukee doing breath work for many years, and I saw an announcement in a magazine that said the Global Inspiration Conference. And this was in 1996. Global Inspiration Conference. Here's a conference bringing breath workers from around the world together. I said, where do I get a ticket? That's all I needed. What's that? And so, listen, keep your ears open. The Spirit of Breath will tap you on the shoulder and give you inspiration about where to connect, where if you're open to it. It would be great to see a whole bunch of Balians at the Kripalu conference in October. I see whenever we travel like that, we are like sewing the continents and the planets and the islands together. That thread of consciousness, the thread of breath, is we're bringing together so many different divergent ways of being. And to me, it's a very exciting time. We're about to bring breathwork more into mainstream right now.
By virtue of the momentum of what's already happening. By
what's already happening,
yeah.
But the book that you're going to write, Antonio, and the video that's going to come out on YouTube from our conference, from our talk here today, and all of these things are our individual contribution to the larger network. So I guess I'm supposed to put in a pitch here for the Global Professional Breathwork Alliance, and that is in 2001 when I first brought the Global Inspiration, when I first brought the international conference to the Western Hemisphere, we started together to create something for standards in ethics in breathwork, because breathwork in the beginning was kind of like the Wild West. Everyone was out there kind of shooting from the hip, and which is great. I mean, that's the way you need to start something. You need to break away from the old forms. But then it got a little wild and woolly, and so we said, come on, let's get together and see if we can pool our resources into what's ethical breathwork, and what's a way of sharing what we think is the best ways to be helpful to train breath workers. And so consequently, you're doing what you're doing with your wonderful group there. And so you can join I took over last year, and I decided to really simplify this. Jessica, Dib, and I are running it now, and I said, people are paying so much for this organization and that organization and that. I said, you know what? To be an affiliate and to have your name on our website, on our international website, saying that you support breathwork, it's going to be $25. Oh, that's reasonable, $25 a year. No, $25 a lifetime. So that's what it is to be a supporter. Put it out there. $75 as a professional breath worker, one that has gone through the 400 hours of training and all of the standards that $75 a year? No, $75 a lifetime. So as long as you breathe. So I say we got to make this stuff available and stand out there. Put your name up there. Say, yes, I'm available. Call me. I will do breath work with you. So there are more and more ways that we're going to come up with to help join us together. And again, just what you've done right here, Antonio, I really applaud and am grateful for, is bringing in other teachers. It's one of the standards of the recognition of professional breathwork is that you learn from more than one teacher. Because you see, when I train people here in Milwaukee, they think, oh, you got to talk like Jim Morningstar, you got to have these dialogues. Well, my wife did breath work before, at the same time, or even a little before I did. She didn't talk at all. She just operated very intuitively. So there's so many different ways of inspiring other people with the breath. And so it's very important that you get exposed to something, because otherwise your mind says, oh, it's the way they did it. Our mind likes familiarity and to be certain about the way, and that's, So this is great. Get exposure to various different ways. In fact, we set it up now so that anyone taking my modules of training can apply them to, for example, Jeremy Yost's breathwork certification. Or anyone taking Antonio's work there could apply it to my certification. And I hope vice versa. So we're starting to, again, get out of, there's one way of doing things, and it's us versus them, and but we still have, we're still intelligently looking to do this in a way that isn't just a free-for-all, okay? Yeah. So that we can say, okay, we got this base covered, the base of ethics, for example, that there's a module on ethics in every breathwork training, or that this base is covered about ancillary techniques that you use along with breathwork. You know, so we had 22 different schools around the world putting together what they thought would be good guidelines for breathwork training, and that's what's on that website.
Jim, physical immortality. Just so we can all hang around and keep doing this together, I'd love you to speak just for a moment about what your views are on that.
Okay. Well, physical immortality, from my perspective, isn't a contest to see who can hang around the longest. It's not about you've done something, well, let's see. It's about being 100% alive. It's about increasing our aliveness and our awareness so that regardless of whatever transition we go through, if we decide to leave this body form, we do it consciously. If we decide to keep this body form, we do it consciously. And there's different reasons for doing different things. It's not like, oh, he died, well, forget it. He couldn't have been any good. No, that's putting a set of expectations and judgments on other people. You know, judge ye not. And so physical immortality for me is I am so alive that I have that choice. I have the choice to stay in my body or to transition and do a different body form. It's all about being more in sync and in choice.
Thank you. I think a final question, and I'm going to open it up if there are any other new questions that have come up. The top 3 tips or tricks that you would wish one of your students to know.
Well, I'm very enamored with helping people use the inner child work. That often, when a person starts to fade out or get unconscious or be afraid of their feelings, having them get in touch with. Now, 2/3 of people visualize fairly well. 1/3 of people, and I am in that 1/3, don't visualize that well. So I'm more kinesthetic. So don't say, always say visualize, have a picture or a felt sense of yourself as a little one. And that then gives permission for them to feel. Because kids can feel. Adults, we don't do that. So, I mean, until we've done breath work, of course. But the inner child is one of the greatest tools I know of getting people into their heart and into their feelings. Now, a second trick, or well, tool, I should say, is when people start to check out, it's an indication that it's not safe to be here. And I like to reverse that field for them. So I was actually although I wasn't officially recognized as such, I think I qualified for the international champion of checking out when I did breath work. I had the greatest breath workers on the planet trying to keep me awake, and none of them could do it until I ran into a little sawed-off guy that raised himself in abandoned cars in New York City, never went past the 3rd grade and formal education, but taught himself music and art, and just very intuitive guy. And he took me to his hometown in Waterbury, Connecticut. He sat me down. He says, okay, now start breathing, in his living room. He went in the kitchen and fixed himself lunch. Pissed me off. What the heck? What's going on here? That kept me awake. He was intuitive enough to know that I was checking out on my own anger. And so if you can get someone angry, and I'm not saying hostile. Anger is not hostility. Anger is just life energy with the thought I'm not getting what I want, and it gives me that boost of load it up. So one of the things, and I showed this in that video, I think you said your folks watched that video, where person's laying on their back, and then I take their feet, and they bring their knees up, and then they kick out, and they say, get away! And they push out like that. I have never had any breathwork client who was falling asleep and then agreed to do that exercise not be fully awake after they did it. Because they finally got to say, you get away, I'm staying here. I don't have to leave. I don't have to check out of my body. I'm claiming this space. You get out of here. You know, so feeling that rush of aliveness and claiming their own space, it's worked every time I've tried it over 40 years. Again, I think I've described how to do it in the video, but you don't have to go to that. You can actually just have the person stomp with their feet, or hit with their hands. You know, again, reading their body about what needs to release. And the third tip, since you wanted 3, right?
Yep.
Is forget all this stuff I've said and just trust breath. Because that's what we come back to. We come back to just trusting breath. And if you can be with the person in their breath, that presence is really what they're looking for.
Thank you, Jim. I'm just going to open it up to see if there are any more questions out here. Any more questions to be asked? Anna Maria, could you?
Jim, what is your personal practice every day?
Okay, I don't know if you want to hear this, but I do about 2.5 to 3 hours of personal practice every day. Did you hear that?
Yes.
I don't think you necessarily want to hear that, but and I don't think everyone needs to do that. Well, what happens though is that when you're pragmatic, you find that the more personal practice you do, the more you get done in your life. It's counterintuitive. You think, no, I don't have time to do that. No, the fact is, the more I get caught up in the do-do, the less I get done. And so that includes a lot of different things. That includes breathing in water, morning and evening, if possible, connecting with ascended masters, touching trees, connecting with nature. Tai Chi has been a staple of mine for 40 years. In fact, I'm just starting to take another very intensive course, like a beginner, in Tai Chi. So find the things that really touch you and build a daily practice. I had a school of integrative psychology here for 33 years, and it was a 3-year program. All these courses now are online. Oh, another little plug here. All these courses are now online, and you can take them and get continuing education or lifelong learning or certificates or academic credit or anything. But I did that for 33 years, and I said, if you go through 3 years of this school and the only thing that you come out with is a daily practice, it was well worth it. Because that's your statement to yourself, your mind, your body. I'm serious. I'm going to step outside of my mind and now be in the timeless place. And that will order your whole day. Take your marching orders from spirit, not from the disc jockey in your head.
Thank you, Jim. You didn't finish the plug. Where do people actually need to go in order to be able to access your online programs, your distance learning, and
the website is called transformationsusa.com. Transformations with an S, USA.com. And then there's distance learning, and there's what's really exciting to me now is that the breathwork modules, as well as all of the other courses, creative thought and all of the other courses are online, but the breathwork modules are also online. And they are a wonderful way to reinforce and to learn about, let's say, other angles at things that you already know. Anthony and I did not spend a lot of time together at that conference, but just being in the same room with him on several occasions, I experienced what he had done in terms of transformation of his own body and his own psyche. And so I knew that I would be in full support of his teaching other people about breath work. And any way that I can support you and give you some other angles and some other ways just to reinforce what you're already getting. I'm grateful for that. So it's very exciting. We're beginning to find ways to exchange with one another. And I'm fully expecting to hear from all of you, because you are called, each person has been called by the Spirit of Breath to do a specific kind of work. Now, not everyone is called to blather on like I have for 2 hours, thank God, but other people are called to contribute in their ways. And we now have made a physical, spiritual connection. And we will continue to support one another on that level, that psychic level. And it's always a delight to me when it can also be made physical.
Wow. Thank you, Jim. Your generosity is almost overwhelming, and I'm just expanding enough to handle it. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing so much of your essence with us.
Okay, I have one more. I have just one favor to ask.
Yes.
Antonio, of you and the group, okay?
Yes.
Okay. I would like to hear, and if possible, see each person in the room. I'd like to hear the name. Each person, just speak your name so that I can see and connect with you. And then I'd like to end with another little group breath visualization. Okay?
That's perfect. Okay.
Should we one by one go up?
Yeah, just one by one come up. You can see yourself. I'm going to alter the screen a little moment here so people can stand. There we go. So
hello, thank you.
Could you say your name again, please?
Akasha.
Kasha.
Akasha.
Akasha.
Yes.
Like Akashic Records. Yes. Thank you.
let's form a line here. So.
Hi Jim, it was a pleasure today. My name is Nick, and I'm training with Anthony actually.
Yes, I saw you contributed 3 questions today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. My name is Monica. Thank you for your inspiration.
Blessings to you, Monica.
To have listened to you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi Jim, I'm Sanaja. I'm also one of Anthony's students. And thank you so much for joining us and sharing your wisdom and experience. It's beautiful.
Thank you for bringing your energy into the room.
Thank you.
Hi Jim, thank you very much. I'm Sebastian.
Hi, Sebastian. Good. You got some real energy there.
I'm Martin. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good. Yes.
Whole session. Cheers.
Blessings.
Hi, Jim. I'm Katie. Thanks for that. It was a pleasure. And yeah, hope to do in person once.
Yeah, pleasure to be with you.
Hello, Jim. I'm Hannah, and I'm coming from Finland, and really nice to meet you. I hope.
Well, boy, we got the world covered now.
Yeah.
Hello, Jim. Anne again here. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it, and come to Ireland sometime.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for your perseverance with our technical stuff.
Yes, we got there in the end. So thank you for your patience as well, Jim. Okay.
Hi, Jim. I'm Anna Maria. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Absolutely, Anna Maria. You are so welcome.
Hello, Jim. My name is Grace. Really touched by the quality of who you are and your intention and purity. Really thanks. It was a gift to listen to you, really. Thank you.
Yes, I feel that right where you're putting your hand.
Thank you, Jim. God bless. Thank you so much.
Antonio, brother.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just so touched. Okay, the others are outside. They're coming in for a breath work this morning that we're going to be starting in about 20 minutes or so. So let's go to a conclusive meditation together. Would you lead that for us, Jim?
Absolutely. I'd be honored. So once again, ask us, is it possible to spread out and hold hands in a circle?
Yes. Sure.
Yes.
I'm sitting. You can see us. Let me just have one hand out to you.
Yeah.
You're in this circle. I want you to know that.
I know. That was my intention. Okay, if you'd close your eyes and create that circle of breath once again, breathing up the back and down the front. And know that this is your sacred circle. Every time you do this, you create a sacred space with your breath and your intention. And now, create that circle by breathing from your left hand up into your heart and out your right hand to the person on the right-hand side. So I'm in your circle with you, and we are sending the breath around the circle, inhaling from the left, exhaling to the right. I'm going to ask you to say a prayer for our sharing of breath work on the planet. And as you exhale, send that prayer out to the right. As you inhale, draw in everyone else's prayer and let it pass through your heart. And once again, I ask the Spirit of Breath to be with each one of us as a companion, as a guide, with every step that we take in our life and in our service. I ask also that we continue to support and inspire one another. And even nurture my far-out fantasy of within a year or two visiting you all in Bali. Yay! Blessings to us all. Have a great breathe today. Yay!
Many blessings.
Okay. Thank you.
Look forward to next time.
Oh,
So you will send me